Hello and welcome to another episode of the Stiletto Talk. And we are focusing our attention today on sexuality, a very hot and spicy topic, but very important as you're continuing your healing journey to talk about embracing your body and just talking about being a feminine sexual being. So I have a wonderful guest here that I cannot wait to introduce. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the world?
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Lake. I'm from Irmo, South Carolina, currently living in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm in my first year of chiropractic school. And yes, I'm excited to be on the show today.
Awesome. So when you had the invite from me about sexuality, what came to your mind when you thought about talking about healing and sex?
Um, the first thing that came to my mind would be getting rid of the stigma, specifically for women, encouraging women to step into their sexuality and to really embrace it. I feel like from a young age, we're kind of taught that it's something that should be reserved only for marriage, or that it's not about pleasure. It's more so about reproducing, which while that's a very important aspect of it, there's so much more to sexuality than just sharing your body with another person.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the first thing that came to mind, was just really encouraging women to explore their sexuality for themselves.
Yeah. And it's a journey for all of us. I think that I had to go through a journey of embracing my sexuality and like, what does that mean for me and my body and pleasure and demanding pleasure and advocating for myself. So I do think that is a beautiful way to kind of introduce the topic. So the first question that I want to kind of guide us through is, why are women held to different standards in regards to sex than men?
I think there are a lot of reasons. Kind of like what I was saying earlier, from a young age, we're kind of taught that, at least I know for me, I was taught that it's something I should be saving for my husband. Um, and I was never really encouraged to explore it for myself. And I was never taught that it was something about my own pleasure.
Right.
So I was young when I started masturbating. I mean, probably around like 6 or 7. I was very young.
Yeah.
But I was always ashamed of it. Like, if someone was coming, it was, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Stop and stuff. But then when I got older, I realized like there was nothing wrong, and I wish I would have had someone there to kind of guide me and to let me know that it's okay, and that's part of the sexual journey. How can you expect to have a healthy sexual relationship with other people if you don't have a healthy sexual relationship with yourself?
Exactly.
And so I think for us as young women, we're taught something different than what men and boys are taught, and so there's this double standard that we get. And also I think for us, we're kind of shamed. There's like a value given to women based on their virginity. And so the more sexually active or promiscuous or open that you are, the less valued you are as a woman. Men don't get that. And so, it's a lot of shame around it, but I think all of that kind of comes into play. And so as we grow up, men just have a different standard than we as girls do.
Absolutely. And that is such a great point, because I guarantee you, if a boy was masturbating, it would be like yeah. It's so much like, yes, you stepped into your manhood, but there is never that conversation of you stepped into your divine feminine, your sexuality, by exploring your body and getting to know your body. Because think about the conversation. We think of, what is it, like the birds and the bees. They tell you about basics, like, okay, you have a vagina. This is what this looks like. And this is what you do. But not really teaching you how to explore your bodies, the different pleasure spots that you'll have. And even exploring sex outside just of what you think it just is. It's just a man and a woman. That's what most people teach.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
There's no education when it comes to, again, that sexual relationship with yourself. And so, like I said earlier, how can I have a good relationship with my partner sexually if I don't even know what's pleasurable for myself? You can't teach them how to please you if you don't know how to please you yourself. So, but yeah, guys just kind of get this almost, like you said, like a rite of passage into manhood. But for us as women, it's almost like, no, you have to save that. Exactly. And then you'll step into it once you're married and your husband takes it. No. That never sat well with me.
No, it's not fair at all. And even the way in which we explore ourselves, and like, you know, foreplay and like dance and all the different things that can kind of bring in that self intimacy with yourself. I think that that's something that's very frowned upon, and it's unfortunate. It's
It
very
is.
unfortunate.
It is.
It makes
Because
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know, it's sad when I speak to other women, you know, now in my adult age, and you know, I might say something about masturbation, and it's
Right.
like what? And then to have the audacity to actually talk about it, like, what?
Yeah.
But it's sad. But again, I mean, I can't blame us as women. That's just what we've been taught, and so. But that's why I enjoy conversations like this, because it gives us a platform and an opportunity to kind of go against the narrative and to show women that there's something else other than just keeping this thing in a box and keeping it sacred. You know, it's so much more than that.
How do you think we can teach our younger girls how to explore their bodies and helping them embrace self-pleasure?
I think it starts with first telling them that it's nothing to be ashamed of, and really just making it something normal. You know, just you know, it's how you have conversations about school, about future careers for little girls. The same thing you say when you should have a conversation about her sex and her sexuality. You know, if you see her touching her body and exploring, you know, different sensations, let her know that it's okay. Let her know that it's okay to explore it. Of course, there comes education as far as boundaries, you know, who is it appropriate to share this with? Who is it not appropriate to share this with? That's really important, especially in today's day and age. You know, girls can be so susceptible to predators.
Yeah.
So you have to have that conversation, but still just making sure that she understands it's nothing to be ashamed of, and really it's normal. It's our birthright to be able to enjoy that pleasure and to explore you know, explore our bodies.
Absolutely. It makes me think about the second question here is, are women conditioned to accept not being fully pleased?
For sure. I even think about in fact, me and one of my friends were having this conversation a few weeks ago. You know, the moment that kind of signifies or indicates the end of a sexual act is typically when the man ejaculates.
Yep.
And then sex is over. No one ever talks, or even when I first heard the word orgasm, it was defined to me as a man ejaculating. It was never defined from a woman's perspective. And so yeah, and then like I said, also like you have the shaming. If you see a little girl who's pleasuring herself or exploring her body, she's immediately shamed for it. And it's like, no, don't shame her. It's her body. It's the clitoris has so many nerve endings there for a reason. It's purely for pleasure. So why would she not explore that? Why should she not explore that?
Right. Such a great point. Put a bunch of women in a room and ask them how many times they or experience a true orgasm.
Oh.
You probably wouldn't get a lot of people with their hands in the air.
Oh, for sure. And even if you were to ask, well, I guess at least for myself, I know I've probably had more orgasms that I've given myself than what I've received from another partner. Yeah. And on the other hand, the same way we as women aren't taught to prioritize our pleasure, men aren't taught to prioritize our pleasure or to even think about our pleasure. Again, they're worried about getting their nut off, and we just kind of lay there, you know, for that purpose. And it's just such a double standard for us.
It truly is. It is so frustrating because I run into a lot of people, even in therapy, where they're like, you know, I'm not being pleased, but I don't know how to say, do this, do that, because I have kind of embraced this submissive type of role. And it's like, it's okay to be submissive when it comes to your pleasure. You need to say what you need. Okay.
Exactly.
What you want, what you need. You're not just a body that is meant to be the vessel of pleasure for someone else. You are the pleasure spot. It is
exactly. Right. And even aside from the whole submissive things, like you said, you can be submissive and still receive pleasure. But how often are we as women sometimes afraid to hurt the ego of our partner, especially if that partner is a man? Like, we're taught not only to please the man, but to protect his ego, to kind of boost him up. And there's nothing wrong with boosting your man up. But sometimes you might have to teach him, and he should be humble enough to receive the criticism. You know, if he's on the wrong spot, you can't just lay there and accept it. But we've been conditioned to do that. Because I know even for myself, there have been times when I've just accepted sex that did not come with pleasure. But once you find your voice and you become comfortable giving that criticism, and I guess sometimes it's kind of difficult and it can be uncomfortable to give someone criticism in any arena, but especially in the bedroom, once you become comfortable with giving it, and again, if your partner is open and humble enough to receive that criticism, then you're going to experience the pleasure that you both deserve. And I wouldn't want to be with a partner who is not concerned about making sure that I'm pleased. So I think that's a red flag. If you're trying to have the conversation with your partner and they aren't open to receiving that criticism, to finding, exploring ways to return pleasure to you, may not be the best relationship. I'm just gonna say it.
You hit the nail on the head. Because my question also is that, should there be a conversation about what your sexual expectations are before you engage in it, like in a relationship? A lot of people think that you can only have that conversation if you're in this, committed relationship. I think that even if you're casually going to have sex, having that conversation, I think, is crucial.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if it's just casual sex, because that's all there is, right? I mean, if we're just in this just for the sex, I want to at least make sure it's worth my time and worth my energy. So yeah, like letting you know up front, what pleases me, what are my hard boundaries. And I think that's another thing we don't talk about. It's not just a matter of communicating what things bring you pleasure, but what things really kind of turn you off, or what things feel uncomfortable to you. And again, there have been times when I've been in sexual instance and the guy has wanted to do things and I may not have been as uncomfortable with it. And there's nothing wrong with exploring. I encourage people to explore new things. But if something doesn't feel right, having the power and the courage to say, hey, I don't like this. This is a boundary. And if you already know that something's a boundary for you, go ahead and communicate that up front.
Absolutely. What helped you get to this point of being this sexual and strong, powerful being? What was the story to help you get to where you are? Because I love it.
Thank you. It's been a journey. Like I said, I've always felt some type of connection to my sexual being. Even at a young age, I was always wanting to explore my body, always wanting to touch and feel pleasure. But also for a while, for me, it became, how can I please a man and use that sexual power to get a man or to get a partner? And again, I think that was just part of how I was raised. Being told that it was something I should be saving for my husband and something I should be sharing with, someone else. And so I was ashamed of the connection that I had with my own inner spiritual being, or sexual being. But I don't know, I think once I kind of got into college and I went through that kind of buck wild phase.
We all been there.
But for me, I think I just kind of got tired of being shamed for it. Because it felt good. And I don't know if maybe it's because I'm a Taurus or whatever you want to say, but I love pleasure. I love feeling all the feel good stuff. And sex is a part of that. And I think after some years of like holding on to that shame, being told I was, should be ashamed for it, I just kind of got sick of it. And I just finally decided to reject that and to embrace it. But I realized that the more I embraced it, even when other people might kind of side-eye me for it, there was always someone saying, I love the way you're open about that conversation. Can you tell me something more? And I just hearing other women, I don't want to say gravitate towards me, but just appreciate how open I was with my sexuality. I think that's when I realized, okay, this is what I need to do. And this is what more women need to do, is just throw away the shame, send it back to the resender, and start embracing your sexuality. If it feels good, why should I remove it from my life? Exactly. It's not harmful. It's not damaging. Well, as long as you have healthy boundaries, of course, with anything, there are boundaries, but it wasn't anything that I felt was harmful for me. And so that's kind of stopped shaming it and started embracing it. And I love my sexuality. I
Right? Isn't
really
that a
do.
beautiful place to be in, to just be free to be you? And it's
Yes.
beautiful. And I want more women to feel empowered. Even through this conversation, I
Mhm.
hope that it will stimulate other conversations at home
Mhm.
with friends or with teenage girls to help them understand and knowing that sexuality is not just about sex with another partner. It's about self-pleasure, being yourself,
Yes.
what you wear, and feeling great about your body. I think that that's all a part of sexuality.
So much. And then also the power that's in connecting with your sexuality.
Yes.
I heard a podcast, this has been a few years ago, but it was talking about manifestation masturbation. And I was like,
Yep.
what is this? And then I started hearing about sex magic. And that's for me and even still now, I feel like I'm still connecting the dots where I was like, okay, this is no coincidence that I felt this connection since I was a little girl, right? Like there's power in this. And so now I'm in the phase where I'm learning to not just embrace my sexuality for the pleasure that it brings me, but for the power that it brings me and what I can do with that power and how I can make things happen in my life with that power. So
Yes.
it's more than just pleasure. I feel like that's step one. And then once you get through step one, it's like, okay, now what else can I do with this?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Sex magic is so powerful because sex and the exchange of sex is a ritual. And
Yes.
even when couples get on the same wavelength to understand that, the amount of you have never experienced sex until you actually put the magic behind it.
Mhm.
I think that is a very great point. But if no one's ever heard about it, start looking into
Yes.
manifestation of sex magic. It is amazing. Setting the scene with the candles and writing down the things that you want to bring in.
Just channel that energy. And
Yeah.
yes, it's beautiful when you see it happening in your life too.
Yes,
Yeah. Mhm.
absolutely. So I want to navigate to the third question is, how do we shift the slut shaming narrative?
I think the easiest way is just to start having more conversations. The
Mhm.
more you talk about something, I feel like the more you slowly start to remove the stigma, the taboo around it. Um, and the reality is there are more women who are connected with their sexuality than who are willing to talk about it.
I
And
think
so if you start talking about it, again, you're going to encourage other women to step into that. And once you have a group of women stepping into it, then the shame it's going to go out the window,
yeah.
right? We're not going to be shamed about something that we start to embrace. So definitely just having the conversations about it um I, and also just masturbating
Yeah,
again, like taking
enjoy
the
it.
time to, yeah, like go into it. I say do like a girls weekend, get you and some of your friends, go to Adam and Eve or some sex store, and just kind of go together and learn from each other and start, like I said, talking about it, removing the stigma, and just being intentional about incorporating that sexuality into your life.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of breaking free from the box that society puts us in when we
Mhm.
are thinking about ourselves being sexual beings. I think about so we have a group, a TSF group, and in that group, I remember a couple of times I mentioned sex toys. I posted something about sex toys. I mean, it was like crickets. It was crickets. And then you had the few people that started saying, "Oh, I like the rose. I bought this. I bought that. It's great. You have to do this." And then you slowly started seeing the trickle of people like, "I'm interested in this." But it took that one person to say something. But I wish that those conversations didn't have to be that way, where we
Yeah.
talk about sex toys. We can talk about threesome. So if that's your
Yeah.
thing, like whatever is your thing, and that's okay for it to be your thing.
It is. It is. And I think sometimes too, like I know for me, maybe like say 10 years ago, I was uncomfortable to talk about it because not only was I kind of afraid of the way others would judge me, but again, I was still judging myself and I was still giving myself that shame. So
Yeah.
once you stop shaming yourself for it, then it becomes easier to talk with others about it. So even when they are, because I still get side eye sometimes,
Mhm.
like even with my closest friends, I might mention a fantasy or something of mine, and they're like, okay, Ashley, here you go. But I'm not ashamed about it. So, it's like, and then, weeks or maybe months down, they're like, you mentioned something before about this. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So yeah, just stop shaming yourself, and it makes it a lot easier, I think, for you to talk to others about it and to just kind of get around the stigma.
Yeah. Do you feel comfortable talking about your sexuality with your family, or do you feel like that's still an area that you kind of stay reserved?
I'm becoming more comfortable about talking with it. Maybe about 2 years ago, my mom and I had a conversation about it was a specific sexual partner I was dealing with, and I never mentioned anything about me having sex or anything like that with my mom. But her reaction, it was not what I was expecting. I thought I was gonna get the shame, get the fussing, but she was a mom in that moment. She just loved me. And we actually ended up having a really, really good conversation. It was one of those like, well, I've been there before. I understand it. So that was really comforting. Since then, honestly, we haven't had many conversations about it. And I think part of that is just because I know my mom's views on sex, and I know she still believes it should be something between a man and a husband and wife. And so I respect that. And so for that, for that point, I just kind of keep it to myself. I feel like when I do try to bring it up, it's usually crickets coming back. So
Yeah.
so we don't. No, but now with my sisters, I'm all out in the open, and usually my sisters kind of look at me like, "All right, Ashley, like that's enough." But yeah, my sisters and I, we can openly talk about sex, even if it's not a two-way. Even if they're not sharing some of their stuff with me, I feel really comfortable sharing with them.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that you motivate them and you inspire them in some way.
I hope so.
You just have that energy about you that's just like, live your life, like do it by all means necessary. And I love that. I really do love that. What other ways do you feel like you explore sexuality outside of sex? Is it clothes? Is it, I don't know, erotic poetry? What are some different things that you do?
Well, so I don't know if you can see in the camera. I got a pole. So this year, January of this year, I started pole dancing, and that has been amazing because I guess I was at a point where I was already comfortable with sex, but I wasn't comfortable with my body.
Oh, okay.
So the pole has really made me become more comfortable with my body. Putting a mirror in front and like just dancing in front of a mirror, half naked. It was intimidating at first, but that has definitely made me, I think, just another layer to embracing my sexuality, pole dancing. And like I said, I masturbate a lot. I've got a lot of toys I like to play with. And not even just alone with myself, but if I have a sex partner, I like having the conversation with them to see if they're interested in toys, and having them use them on me, again, helping to teach them how to pleasure me. So but yeah, get into pole dancing if you want a good workout and you want a way to also embrace your sexuality. Kill two birds with one stone. Get a pole and take some classes.
That's exciting. Me and my wife, we have a pole. We don't have it up yet. We had it up in our old house. In our new house, we don't have it, but we do have a pole. And it's just like, it looks so challenging to where I'm nervous. I'm like, I want to do all the things, but
do it.
Can I do this? Like,
you can. I remember when it might have been my first two classes, because my very first class, they taught us how to do just like a basic climb up onto the pole, just one climb. And then I went back for my second class, and I could only climb up. I couldn't, continue to climb. I could just do that one. And just one day, maybe by like the third or fourth week, it just kind of like my body just figured it out. And the next thing you know, I was trying to like lean back and hang upside down, and it's fun too because it's challenging my body. It's nice. It's a good break too from school, the mental stress of school. So being able to kind of like take a break from that, and then just give my physical body a challenge and to see what it can do. And then when you learn a new move, you're like, oh, okay. But I tell people, because I'm no athlete by any means. I don't have any upper body strength. Don't ask me to do a push-up. But something about when I get on this pole and my inner sexy comes out.
You can do all the things.
I do all the things. Do it. Take some classes.
Love it. Yeah, I'm super interested. Even the outfits, I love just the setup and the scenery of it. It's just very sexy, even if you're by yourself. I love the idea of the mirror. That's pretty nice to be able to have that mirror. And even if for someone that doesn't have a pole, having that mirror and just kind of putting on some lingerie, some makeup, that's your vibe, and just really enjoying yourself. I think that that's a part of a self-love ritual that I think that we should be doing at least once a week.
Oh, absolutely. There was one day I had gotten, so I have like the Fenty, Savage by Fenty lingerie subscription or whatever. And I had gotten a new outfit from there. And I was like, you know what? I didn't get the outfit to wear for anyone, just myself. And I did my makeup one day and I just took some pictures in the mirror. And I just like say, like, you know how you can hide your pictures in your camera roll? So I added them to like my little hidden camera. But every now and then I'll just go in there and I'm looking at myself, well, okay, bitch, you was a bad bitch that day. Like, you did it. But it makes me feel so good. And I did it too, because a few years ago, I lost a bunch of weight and then I've been gaining it back. So I was kind of down about my body, but just fixing yourself up and looking in the mirror. It's like, oh, okay. And like I said, even before I got the pole, I got, like some party lights or whatever. It was like $10 off Amazon. So just like at nighttime, put on some sexy music, put the little lights on, just dance. Yeah. Oh yeah, it feels so good.
You are going to be goals for so many people. I know I'm going to be taking your advice. Like, let me go get these lights. Let me go do this thing.
Get the lights. Yeah.
Well, I think you pretty much answered the question, but what advice final advice would you give any woman that could be in a space where she's kind of feeling, hidden and having a little bit of difficulty embracing her sexuality? What would you say?
Definitely go at your own pace, because I know everyone's on different levels, but truly just start making love to yourself.
Yeah.
Physically, like I said, even not outside of just like the physical act of whether it's masturbation or anything. But like I said, like getting sexy, just be proud of yourself. It's almost like you just kind of have to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
Like just go for it. If you've never taken a mirror to look at your body parts, put a mirror down there, check things out. Just little things like that. I think the more you touch yourself, the more you look at yourself, the more comfortable you'll become. And then slowly you'll be able to take the next step and the next step and the next step.
Yeah. That's wonderful advice. I think that is really good to kind of teach yourself. I think there's so many ways to get started. And I think that it's okay to explore. Try different things and yes, go at your own pace. I think start with yourself. You said that way earlier, and I think that's still so prominent to say. Start with yourself, understanding yourself, and that way that when you are interacting in other ways, you know exactly what it is that you want.
Exactly. Yes, for sure.
This has been a lovely conversation, and I am so grateful that you took the time out to be here with us to share your wisdom and all of your love with our viewers.
Yes, thank you for having me. This was exciting. I've been waiting for this for the past few weeks.
Of course. If you all that are watching have any questions for Ashley, you're more than welcome to drop those into the comments and we will get those answered for you. And thank you again for watching another episode of The Stiletto Talk. See you later. I would love to have you on my show. So visit www.thestilettofiles.com and find out how.